everyone, Mr. T back here from the DR. This time I'm going to use my GoPro and take you for a street drive around Sosúa and Cabarete so you can get familiar with all the places. Let's go. First I'm going to take you down to the main action street inside of Sosúa called Brgds, where you'll find all the bars, restaurants and shops. Seeing Brgds in the daytime is very different than seeing it at night. Around 7-8 p.m. at night you start seeing a lot of people come out into the bars and clubs and restaurants, and then it just gets busier and busier right through to about 1 to 3 in the morning, depending on which day of the week it is. One thing that's for sure, it's one of the biggest party towns of the North Coast. The handy location I'm passing now is where all the banks are located, as well as a liquor store called Super Liquor. And there's a few takeaway stores as well and hairdressing salons. The street you see on the right here goes back to the coastal highway. And on the left here you have a very international bar called Plan B, where they have karaoke every Tuesday and Saturday night. A great place for good times and meeting other people. Brgds is quite a long street. You'll find bars, hotels, restaurants and shops along the way. And down the bottom there's the family gym and the police station. And if you come to stay here for a period of time, then accommodations around here are usually about $400 to about $1,200 a month, depending on the size, the season and other factors. One thing I find great about both Sosúa and Cabarete is that you can get anywhere within about 5 minutes drive. Whether it's the beach, an office or shop, everything's close by, and unlike the big cities, you're not stuck in traffic jams for minutes or hours. At the time of me making this video, there was a lot of potholes that had just been repaired, so the roads were fairly safe. But through the seasons you'll find there is a lot of potholes, and if you drive a scooter, especially with small wheels, you do have to be very careful and watch where you're going. But after a while you learn where all these potholes are. In a moment you'll see a big tent on the right where a lot of religious groups have their concerts and events. And here we go into the heart of Playa Chiquita, heading right down to the end where you'll meet the beach road with luxury villas. Just while we are racing around here looking at the streets and the places, I'll give you a little bit of information. Sosúa was actually founded in 1940 with Jewish settlers, and since then it's been rapidly growing, and especially in the last 10 years Sosúa has changed its looks with new plazas, shops, restaurants, supermarkets, parks, schools, residential communities growing and much more. If you visited Sosúa about 10 years ago, you'd probably be surprised to see its growth. And now the population is up to about 60,000 people, including the suburbs. When it comes to distances and driving, to head to the airport it's about 5 to 8 minutes drive. To head to Puerto Plata you're looking at 25 minutes drive, and to head to Cabarete there's 10 to 15 minutes drive, all depending on traffic of course. When it comes to actually driving here, I enjoy it more than I've ever done in any other country, because it's very free, They don't hang themselves in little things like whether you go 6, 7, 8 kilometers over the speed limit in a certain zone, whether you cross the middle line, and many other silly little regulations that the government's come up with just to milk money out of you. Here it's more by body language, and people indicate to each other who should go first or second, and everything just seems to flow much smoother, and I really like that. The other neat thing here, if you're driving your vehicle and you can't find a car park on the right hand side of the road, you just find one on the left hand side. As long as you don't put your wheels up on the footpath and you have your tax sticker in order, then you should be fine. There are several things you need to be careful of when you're driving over here that could be different to where you come from, especially motorists or motorbikes suddenly pulling out from oncoming traffic into your lane. So in the daytime I tend to stay to the right quite a bit, and at night time I'm more out towards the middle line, because then suddenly there's people walking on the side of the road with no reflectors or bikes with no lights on. There are certain things that you need to be very careful of when you're driving over here. Many people are uneducated in terms of being considerate of what might be coming from behind them. So taxi drivers, guagua drivers will just slam their brakes on suddenly to try to get money, and if you don't see it ahead of time, you may just hit them in the back, and it's always your fault. Also, you'll find bikes or cars suddenly pulling out from side roads in front of you. So make sure your horn is working well and use it to warn people, I'm coming, wait your turn. Also be very careful of those motorbike drivers who decide that it's a good idea to drive the wrong way up a one-way street. And if you're just turning into that one-way street going the correct way, you may just get hit in the side by one of these wild drivers. And whenever you come up to a T intersection, be careful of those motorbike drivers who are coming from your right side, cutting the corners, often hitting people in the sides because they didn't look properly or go into their side of the street. Also be very careful of oncoming traffic. When there's a lot of potholes around, people tend to steer around the potholes and they don't care if they enter the opposite lane to do so, and if you're coming there, you could be in grave danger. The other thing is, people will suddenly pull out from behind cars with either their vehicle or their motorbike without looking first if there's something coming the other way. So if you want to avoid a head-on collision, be very careful and prejudge all these situations. Coming back to my street drive, I've just arrived at a place called Parque Mirador by Playa Alicia. This is one of the main beautiful lookouts from Sosúa facing Puerto Plata, where you'll see Mount Isabella de Torres with the cable car in Puerto Plata, as well as the airport with the planes flying in and out. This is a very unique place because about a decade ago this beach didn't even exist. The water was right up to the rocks from the edge of the cliffs, but then some sand shifted from one bay over to Playa Alicia, and today it's one of the most popular beaches. A miracle of nature. Ahead in this main intersection you're going to find nice dining restaurants like El Conde right on the corner, and just to the right around the corner you've got Captain Bailey, both with very nice food and prices. Next I'm going to take you around the Sosúa Bay Casino and then down to the beach car park. And if you happen to be traveling with children, then there's a large playground just to the left when I cross the intersection here, up against the casino, and also about 2 minutes walk from the beach. In this area you'll also find a few nice hotels and restaurants with bay view and a language school called Casa Goethe. And just as I head around the corner you'll see the main entrance to the Coral Reef Casino, not to be confused with the one I showed you earlier in Playa Chiquita with the Latin nightclub in it. Now I'm heading down the main street to the main car park of Sosúa Beach. Along this street you'll find a few restaurants and cafes, as well as souvenir shops, scuba diving and snorkeling companies, and there's barbers and hairdressing salons, massage clinics and more. On Sosúa Beach you'll find a ton of different souvenir shops and restaurants and bars, and you can dine either up against the establishment or right out on the sand overlooking the beautiful bay. If you enter Sosúa Beach, which you can only do by foot, then you'll find it'll take you about 10 to 20 minutes depending on how fast you walk to get from one end to the other one. And along the way you're going to see one souvenir shop after the other, beach bars and restaurants, and there's different water sports companies offering their services. And you will be approached by vendors selling different things along the beach, but this is all part of the charm. Turn your seat to the right, leads out to Playa supermarket and the coastal highway. Back again on Pedro Clisante, the main action street of Sosúa, with its restaurants, bars, cafes, cigar lounges, shops and much more, and of course the clubs further down. But now we're going to turn towards the highway. In Sosúa they have two major supermarkets, one's called Super Polar and the other one Playa, which you'll see on the left in the clip coming up here. I shop in both of them because there's price differences sometimes between the products and they have different things available in both stores, but a good selection of both local and international products. Now that you know where Supermercado Playa is located, let's take a 3-4 minute drive up the highway in the other direction to the new supermarket, Super Polar. To the left in the clip there's the Texaco gasoline station again, then the metro buses that go nationwide, and then the street by the lights that go down to Pedro Clisante, where you'll pass Las Palmeras Hotel with Midtown Bar and Restaurant in the courtyard. But for now we'll keep heading out the highway. Left here there's a plaza called Eric Hauser, which has the power company at Enduro, the water company Coro Plata, as well as BM Cargo and other companies in there as well. On the right here I'm passing Germany Bar and Grill, probably one of the most popular bars and restaurants in the whole Sosúa area. And every Thursday they have a big buffet, all you can eat for just a few hundred pesos. Just coming up on the right you'll see a propane gas refilling station, of which you'll see 2 more on the way to Cabarete. A lot of vehicles over here run on propane, so very handy and much more affordable. Now you'll see me turn left by Super Polar supermarket and head down a couple of streets, heading you down in the right direction to hit Pedro Clisante again. And then we're going to take a little trip to a suburb called Terramar. Even though Sosúa and Cabarete has had a very slow economy for the last few years, in the last couple of years there has been an increase in the number of constructions and renovations of places. We've seen supermarkets, schools pop up, and an increase in the sizes of the residential communities. So things are moving forward, slowly but surely. In a moment when I reach the traffic lights, you'll see me speed up the clips as I'm heading above the beach on a stretch where there's hardly any buildings until I get to Los Charamicos. On this stretch they're currently busy putting curbs in for footpaths as well as driveways that are going to lead into different kind of boutique malls as well as condominium complexes. But the actual layout of the beach area along the bay is kept under wraps by investors and government so far. Down the end of the road as you look ahead, there's the entrance to Sosúa Beach from the Los Cheramicos side, and if you take a left there and head up about 100 meters, you'll find a small restaurant called Michael's Restaurant where you have a perfect view over the entire bay and all the people on the beach. Los Cheramicos actually used to be the town center of Sosúa, but then they moved it further down to where it is today. And today it's a big residential community and you've got different businesses there, shops, and if you're looking for anything like vegetables or meat or you want clothing at Dominican prices, this is a good place to come and visit. Okay, next up I'm going to take you just up the hill around the corner from the supermarket Playa to a residential community called Hispaniola, which is very popular amongst people coming over here. Left here you'll see the main entrance to Hispaniola, which is a large gated community, and a little bit further up the road there's the Diners Club, which is their restaurant with beautiful views over Sosúa and the bay. Alright, now we've seen a lot of Sosúa, now it's time to head for Cabarete. I'm starting out from Super Polar Supermarket. Coming up on the left there's something called Plaza Internacional, where you'll find different shops and cafes, and next to that you have the privately owned CMC hospital. Shortly you'll see me passing an industrial area in the outskirts of Sosúa, heading towards Cabarete, where there's tyre stores, mechanics, auto electricians and much more. Now if you're coming over here to live either part or full time and you're checking out different areas, make sure you check out Playa Laguna. There's a few things that are good down there. One, you have a beautiful beach, as well as a school called Isla Academy, and you can actually look that up on the internet and there's a lot of information about that. And thirdly, you've got the condominium complex Grand Laguna Beach, which is definitely also worth checking out. Up to the right you'll see the HVB Plaza, which is a cool place because they've got products right from pool maintenance, bathrooms, driveways, blinds, doors, windows, furniture, and a lot of food products brought in from Germany. And up on the left you'll see Seahorse Ranch, which is a gated luxury community with villas and tennis clubs and the equestrian center. Actually in my last video I put out about the tours and activities, you saw me go horse riding in there. Very beautiful. Definitely worth checking out. Coming up on the left, there's another popular gated community called Perla Marina, which has big areas full of villas as well as condominium complexes facing the ocean. Most people are very happy to live in here. However, you'll either need your own transportation Or alternatively, you can choose to take the public transportation, where you can take a guagua or a taxi público for only about 30 to 40 pesos to either Sosúa or Cabarete. As you can see, I've got the clips running a bit faster now because we're out in the countryside, but I just passed another entrance to something called Encuentro Beach, where all the surfing goes on, and there's also a nice restaurant in there called Ties Arsenio, with big botanical gardens with peacocks and many beautiful birds. On my left I also just passed something called Villas Caribic and Coconut Palms, which has large residential communities as well, many of them overlooking the ocean. All the way on the left here, it's Kite Beach. You'll find several different hotels as well as kite surfing schools. And even if you're not into kite surfing, it's quite spectacular just to watch all the kites head out towards the ocean and come back in again. Very colourful. Two of the hotels in Kite Beach that does a great job and provide good service for their customers is Kite Beach Hotel as well as Kite Beach Inn. Definitely worth checking out. Right, we've reached Cabarete, and you'll see the gasoline station on the right. There's another one on the other side of Cabarete as well. And then there's hotels and restaurants all the way along on the left, and you'll start seeing different plazas with banks and shops and much more. In my opinion, Sosúa and Cabarete has quite a lot of differences. Cabarete is more based on the water sports industry and therefore attract a lot of people who are into surfing or other kinds of water sports, and tourists who come for the restaurants and the souvenir shops and an environment that's more family friendly. However, in general, the business people of Cabarete seem a little bit more conservative, where in Sosúa they seem to be more down to earth and open with you. However, the two towns have their pluses and minuses, so if you're planning to come down here for a while, rent a little bit in Sosúa and then a little bit in Cabarete, and soon you'll know which town you feel the most comfortable with. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Cabarete is only about 20 to 25 minutes drive from the airport, so it's definitely one of those places you should check out before you fly out, and especially at night time it's really beautiful just to stroll down the beach watching all the restaurants lit up with all their different colours. Cabarete was founded mainly between 1970 and 1980, and after that the tourism started booming in DR, and now the population's grown to over 20,000 residents spread along the coastline and the main road of Cabarete. On both sides of the street you'll find different businesses and shops, and most restaurants will allow you to walk through their establishment to reach the beach. Alright folks, thanks for watching till this point. We've only got a small stretch left with a few landmarks, and then it's time for me to go somewhere and have a cold drink. Cabarete has a number of convenience stores and small supermarkets, but there's only one major supermarket here called Jeanette's. However, in here you'll find most products that you normally would find in any other supermarket overseas. Thank you very much folks for watching, and I do hope that this GoPro Street View with the information I gave you is going to be helpful for you when you either come here on vacation or to live. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Feel free to leave a comment under the video, tick like and recommend. And please stay tuned for upcoming videos. There's a second part coming soon of tours, activities and excursions. And until next time, take good care. See you later. Bye bye.